मेरा कहे प्रभु गिरिधर नागरा हे गोविंदा हे गोपाला मेरा कहे प्रभु गिरिधर नागरा हे गोविंदा हे गोपाला हे गोविंदा हे गोपाला हे गोविंदा हे गोपाला. Hey friends, welcome to Storytime. There have been many periods of great discord and disharmony and suffering through the years of this earth. And in those periods often have arisen great souls, great beings who help uplift the sorrowful and suffering human population. So I want to tell you about one of these poet saints, and her name was Mirabai. Mirabai was born at the very end of the 14th century in a palace in Rajasthan. She was a princess, and her family was extremely wealthy, and she was well educated in all the Sanskrit grammars and in dance and horseback riding and martial arts and poetry and singing, everything. And you know, she was the jewel in her parents' eye. When she was very young, a sadhu, a wandering mendicant, went by the palace courtyard and saw her and saw that there was something very special about this little child. And he gave her a small statue of Lord Krishna, which Mirabai took to heart and cherished deeply. In fact, from that day on, she didn't see this as a statue. She saw this, I guess we could say, as a doorway to the reality of Lord Krishna. And she grew up first as a child and an adolescent and then a young woman, completely in love with her Lord, with the Dark Lord, with Sham, with Krishna. And she spent her days singing, she spent her days in prayer and worship and dancing, and she didn't care about anything that was going on in the palace or in the kingdom or anything like that. All she cared about was her very real and human and completely spiritual but completely sensual relationship with her Lord. So when it became time for her to get married, you know, as was the practice in those days, the kingdoms would arrange marriages to unite the kingdoms and make them stronger and politically have more power and force in the region. So Mirabai was married to the prince of a neighboring kingdom. She didn't object to this, but what she did object was to being a wife, because she was already married. She was married to Krishna. She said it. She didn't hide this. She didn't disguise it. She didn't water it down or whitewash it. She said, I am married to my beloved Sham. I have no interest in this kingdom or in you, my new husband. So, well, needless to say, she became very unpopular in the court, and her husband, who became king, was more and more angry at her. In fact, people thought that she was a spy for other kingdoms. Of course, she had no interest in that. That was completely untrue. Finally, after attempting time and again to get Mira to enter his bedroom with him, her husband became completely angry and decided to kill her. He had one of his servants put poison in her nightly cup of milk, and then Mirabai's attendant was going to bring it to Mirabai, who would drink it and then die. Well, the attendant was very devoted to Mirabai, and she told her, she said, look, your husband put poison in this milk. And Mirabai said, this life has become so burdensome. If Krishna wants me to die, I will exit from this body and be with him forever. If Krishna wants me to live, I will take this body and exit this kingdom and live the rest of my life in complete adoration of my Lord. So she with no fear, she drank down the milk, and of course, she was not harmed. She was fine. So the next morning, she bundled up just a few of her possessions. Legend has it she had a one-stringed ektar. We don't know for sure. And put on the ochre robes of a sadhu and began walking all through North India and Gujarat, just cross, and composing and singing these amazing love songs to her Lord. Love songs of every mood, passionate embrace and despairing longing. Her renown spread far and wide, even during her lifetime. And after some time, as she began to get older, she settled in Vrindavan, the town where Lord Krishna lived when he was young. And to this day, you can go to her home there. It's preserved by the Indian government. It's just a tiny little hut kind of. And you step down and you can see and sit where she sat to sing. And her songs are and were so passionate and so rebellious and so completely human and at the same time completely divine that she has become a folk hero and inspired devotion and love and self-expression among women and men of all ages. There's one story, there's so many stories about Mirabai, but there's one story that I'll share. In those days, as I was saying, even in Vrindavan, there was this caste rigidity and this gender inequality. And when big gatherings were held to celebrate and praise and kirtans were sung, women weren't allowed to come in. So one day, Mira, just attracted by the chanting of her beloved's name, went to one of these big congregations, and she sat way in the back, and she listened, and she swayed, and in fact, I think she even began to dance. And then when someone saw her dancing, the guy who was running the thing stopped the whole thing down and shut it down and said, "We cannot continue this kirtan because there's a woman in the room." And Mirabai looked around. I can only imagine the expression that she had on her face, and she said, "I don't see any men here. Aren't we all women before our beloved Lord?" And the intensity with which she said that, well, it just slammed down that guy just right off his asana. And the kirtan continued with incredible joy from that day on. That rule was no longer valid in Vrindavan, and kirtans were all men and women singing to their divine Hari. So almost every performance of Indian singing, even to this day, whether it's classical or folk or whatever, will include one of Mirabai's songs. And I encourage you all to find translations, to find books of her poetry. They're just so great. My music teacher, Ali Akbar Khan, taught us many of Mirabai's songs, but he also despaired in that he said, we'll never know what her voice sounded like. We'll never know what raga she really sang this in. And we can only do our best to honor her legacy by singing her songs. So I'm not singing a whole song, but I'll just continue the song that I started at the beginning. Mera kahe Prabhu means Lord of Mira. Giridhara Nagara, the holder of the mountain. Hey Govinda, hey Govinda. Gopala. Mera kahe Prabhu Giridhara Nagara. Hey Govinda, hey Gopala.